I'm going to talk about liberating teachers. I'm actually from a family of teachers. My dad, my wife, my mother-in-law are all teachers. Most of my friends are teachers, and I was a teacher for 11 years. And if you hang around as many teachers as I do, you know that there's not that many of them that are thrilled with the direction that education is headed. And like many teachers, when I first started, I had a tremendous sense of idealism and optimism about the power of traditional schools, like I went to growing up, to not only improve the lives of young people, but to make the world a better place. The picture I had running through my head was this one, the famous "Oh Captain, My Captain" scene from the Dead Poets Society. Right, I was gonna be that guy, leading my students up the mountain of knowledge to the pinnacle of wisdom, or some such thing. However, my view from the front of the classroom was much more often like this. And this is a problem. And at first, I thought it was my problem. I thought I'm new at this, I suck at teaching, I just need to get better. And so I tried all the innovative things I could think of. And some of the kids really got into it. But the overwhelming feeling was much more like, is this gonna be on the test? And what I came to realize was that it wasn't just me, but that there was a systemic issue with the way that we've chosen to educate young people. I had always liked school growing up, but what I learned from my teaching career is that many of my students did not. And that far from looking at high school as an opportunity to learn and grow, many of them looked at it more like a 4-year sentence. They just had to put in their time. And I don't want to be overly dramatic here, but eventually I came to feel a little bit like a prison guard. I was making kids who didn't want to be there in the first place do things they didn't want to do. And this is not an inspiring way to spend your days, and certainly was not the reason that I went into teaching in the first place. And so I knew I had to get out. Small problem though, if you're a teacher, but you don't like school, and what do? I got pretty desperate. I was Googling things at night, like jobs for teachers who hate teaching. And in all of that searching, I came across this place called North Star. And North Star is based on an idea called self-directed education. And as I was reading their website and really understood what they were doing, I got so excited. I literally jumped out of my chair and did this little dance around my office, a little like an Irish jig, which I will not recreate for you here today, because this was it. This is how I had always imagined working with young people. And really since that day, I've dedicated my life to making self-directed education an option for as many young people as possible. Okay? So what are we talking about here? What's self-directed education? Why does it have the power to liberate not only students, but teachers as well? Well, it boils down to what author Blake Bowles refers to as educational consent. This is a really simple and an obvious idea when you think about it, but it has profound implications for the way that we work with young people. Right? So when you're dealing with like medical professionals, for instance, they have to get your consent before treating you. Doctors don't just strap you to a table and start poking and prodding you. They ask, like, hey, can I take a look at that thing growing on your arm? Right? They give you treatment options, and ultimately you have the right to say yes or no to whatever they suggest. If they don't get your consent, it's a violation. Right? And actually, consent is pretty central to all of the positive and meaningful relationships we have in our lives, right? So why not in school? I probably taught a little over 1,000 kids in my career. And how many of them did I ever actually ask if they were interested to spend 180 days with me learning about US history? 0. How many do you think would have taken me up on it if they had the choice? Or you broaden the question a little bit. How many of you want to be here in school at all? I think we don't ask kids the question because we're afraid of what the answer would be, right? And we adults don't see any other path. It's either you go to school, even if you don't like it or it's not working for you, or you end up a bum. Like, there's your choices. Well, fortunately, those aren't the only two options. And what a lot of people don't know is that there's this whole world of wonderful opportunities for young people who choose not to go to school. that you can learn independently of the traditional public and private school system, and every door is still open to you. College, career, entrepreneurship, travel, that everything you can do later in life by attending school, you can still do without attending school. You know, when I'm talking to people about this for the first time, this is generally the point in the conversation where the needle makes that scratchy noise across the record. Like, what? You can be successful without going to school? Like, don't kids need a high school diploma? You know, the answer is actually usually no. We're here in Princeton, New Jersey, for instance, and you don't need a high school diploma to attend Princeton University. Who knew? I mean, you still have to meet their admissions requirements and do a lot of amazing things with your time, but graduating from high school is just not on the list. You know, some colleges, some entry-level jobs might require you to have some kind of piece of paper from the state. You can just take a GED test, sort of check that box off, and just get on with your life. Obviously, you don't need a diploma to start your own business or travel. It's just generally a non-issue for whatever path kids want to take next in their life. But when we're talking to people about self-directed education or non-coercive education, people have a really hard time just wrapping their head around, like, what would that look like on a daily basis for young people to have so much choice about what they learn and how they spend their time? Well, there's a bunch of ways to do it. I'm going to talk about the one that I'm most familiar with, which is an organization I helped create called the Princeton Learning Cooperative, which was modeled after what they were doing at North Star. And it goes like this. If traditional school is not doing it for you for whatever reason, sometimes the best solution is also the simplest. Just stop going. You know, if the medicine's making you sick, stop taking it. And the way to stop going to school in the United States is through something called homeschooling law. Anyone can just do this tomorrow. You register as a homeschooler, and voila, you have all the freedom and flexibility you could ever want to design whatever kind of life and education is going to work for you. And by homeschooling, we don't mean just taking school and doing it at home. We don't mean your mom teaching you algebra at the kitchen table. It's simply the legal mechanism that we have here in the United States for young people and their families to be in charge of your own education. And many families, even if traditional school is really not working well for their child, don't feel like they could make this jump to independent learning without a lot of support and help. And this is where organizations like PLC and North Star come in handy. So one way to think about it is that it works a bit like a YMCA or a health club, right? You become a member, and then they have all these resources and opportunities and equipment that you can use. If you want to learn more about something, you could sign up for a class or work with a trainer or coach. But everything is offered voluntarily. Like when you go to the YMCA, it's not like they force you to get onto the treadmill for 45 minutes before you can go swimming, right? It's up to you, based on who you are, what your fitness level is, and what your goals are, right? So at PLC, for instance, every young person has a staff mentor that they meet with individually each week. And initially those conversations are just like, all right, you're not going to be in school 7 hours a day. What do you want to do with your time? What are you interested in? Where do you see yourself headed? And then supporting young people to find the resources, not only at PLC, but out in the wider community to help them get where they want to go. And then at PLC, we're open 4 days a week, sort of during school hours, and there's just a lot of help and support that we give to young people. There's classes that you can sign up for, there's tutoring, there's help finding volunteer and work opportunities in the community. We help kids apply to college, and it's also just a safe and welcoming community for teens to be a part of. But everything that we offer is optional. There's no attendance requirements, there's no grades, there's no credits or diplomas. It's really just learning for learning's sake. But it's not for everybody. I wouldn't have left my high school to attend a self-directed education center. I would have been like, where's the basketball team, right? But for young people who feel stuck in school and want something different, it can be a life-changing option. And it works. For better or worse, a lot of people, equate the success of educational programs by like college acceptance rates. And every kid who's ever wanted to go to college from PLC has. North Star's been doing this a really long time. It's something like 80% of their kids go on and do some form of higher education, including at quote unquote top schools like MIT and Brown. And so just like there's many young people who feel stuck in school, there are many, many teachers who feel the same way. And this is where the teacher liberation part comes in. For a lot of frustrated teachers, their first impulse, if they don't leave the profession altogether, is to want to start their own school. Like, I can do it so much better than these idiots that I'm working for, right? I have a little bit of advice. For goodness sakes, don't start a school. Right? I mean, unless that's really, really, really what you want to do. If you're just looking for more autonomy and a better way to work with young people, you should start a self-directed education center instead. And I'll tell you why. Right? First, this country is chock full of schools of all kinds. It was not inspiring to me to just start another one. And in fact, starting another school, even a small, progressive, cool one, would not have solved the problem for a lot of the young people that I worked with who didn't like school. Public, private, charter, they're all still schools, right? And the kids that I worked with, wanted more control over their life at a fundamental level, and not just sort of different choices offered by somebody else. Second, it's simpler. I mean, has anybody in here ever looked at the application to start a charter school? It's massive. There's all this red tape and hoops to jump through, and at the end of all that, you still need someone's permission. Right? With a self-directed education center, you're just setting up a nonprofit organization like any other. The process is really straightforward and simple, and you don't need anyone's permission. You can just do the work, no strings attached. Financially, these centers are way more doable than starting a school. We started PLC in one tiny little room with like $4,000 worth of loans. It's really challenging to make it work, just like any other venture, but it's not much more complicated than managing a household budget. Your financial statement fits on one piece of paper. As a teacher, you have a lot more control over the work that you do with young people. I lead a couple classes. It's like US history, current events, a class that I call Be More Awesomer. Not because I have to, because I want to, and the young people are interested. You can really offer any kind of class or experience you want, and you don't need departmental permission. If you want to do it, the kids want to do it, just put it on the calendar. It's as simple as that. And no grades means no grading. I get plenty of feedback, but what it does not involve is all night or all weekend long grading marathons. All that pointless paperwork that you deal with, just kind of wave it goodbye. But the big one, as far as I was concerned, is just that the relationships that I can have with young people are better. When I was a teacher, I was hired to have an agenda. And it usually involved teaching US history and enforcing school policies, whether I thought that agenda was in the best interest of the young people sitting in front of me or not. I had the authority and was often required to make bad things happen to young people. If they didn't do the homework, they didn't study for the test, they didn't do the project, even if they had zero interest in any of that beforehand, I gave them bad grades. Detentions, demerits, suspensions. It's kind of crazy for me to think about now, but I was in charge of telling 17-year-old humans when they could eat a snack, or wear a hat, or go to the bathroom. These are not decisions I feel like I need to be a part of. And this role that I had really colored the relationships that I had with young people. At a self-directed education center, my only agenda ever is supporting young people where they're at right now and helping them get to where they want to go. That's it. Instead of a taskmaster, I'm a mentor, I'm a coach, I'm a cheerleader, I'm a supporter. This is a better way to relate to young people, and really the kind of adult that I think young people need in their life the most. Right? So like I said, self-directed education may not be for everybody, but it should be an option. for every young person in this country. And I guarantee you that if you were to close your eyes and just sort of point at a map of the United States, in whatever town you landed on, there would be a handful of teachers who don't like working in school, and, trust me, plenty of young people who also don't like school. So the idea is we just gotta put them together. There should literally be thousands of these places all over, and it's my mission in life to help support their creation. And look, this is not theoretical. This is happening right now on the ground all over the country with real young people and their families. And so look, if TED Talks are supposed to be about ideas worth spreading, let me tell you, this is one of them. Self-directed education has the power to not only improve the lives of countless young people, but also the lives of the teachers who work with them. And because now, on most days, I really do get to feel like this. Thank you.